Recently we took a look at the 7 greatest national teams of all time, and it was suggested to us that we ought to do another video focusing on the finest club sides. Once more, this is a countdown of the greatest individual sides, not which club team has been the greatest over their entire history. It's worth noting, before you start hammering furiously into your keyboard in the comments section, that football as we know it is around 150 years old, and there have been great teams right from the start. As such, it's highly likely that you may disagree with us, but we've tried to be as objective as possible and justify our selections. Here are our 7 greatest club teams of all time. Liverpool, 1975 to 1984. Narrowing our original shortlist of 15 down to a final 7 was no easy task. The team who just squeaked in, making them the sole English representatives in this 7, are the Liverpool side from the mid-1970s to the mid-1980s, as great Manchester United and Preston North End teams just missed out. The Liverpool team won back-to-back European Cups in 1977 and 1978, adding a third in 1981 and a fourth in 1984. They also won 7 out of 9 First Division League titles between 75 and 84. In total, they won 24 trophies in those 9 years, under the stewardship of Bob Paisley for all but one of those seasons. There perhaps weren't as many truly world-class individuals in the Liverpool side as some of the others in this 7, but they could still boast the likes of Alan Hansen, Graham Souness, Emlyn Hughes, and the great attacking duo of Ian Rush and Kenny Dalglish. Inter Milan, 1962 to 1966. The third most successful club in Italy, Inter Milan have had some fantastic sides over the years, but none come close to the group of players they had at their disposal in the early to mid-1960s. The players, collectively referred to as Grande Inter, spent around 8 years together, but were at their peak between 62 and 66. Inter brought in Argentine boss Helenio Herrera from Barcelona, and he brought Luis Suarez with him, probably the finest player in Europe at the time. Suarez, combined with the likes of Facchetti, Jair and Mazzola, created a side which won 3 Serie A titles and 2 European Cups in 4 years. Ajax, 1969 to 1973. Ajax have given so much to the world of football, and they've had many great sides over the years, with their 1995 Champions League winning side coming quickly to mind. Their team in the late 1960s and early 1970s, though, was truly one of the greatest to ever grace a football pitch. Johan Cruyff was the star, but the team was littered with great players, from Piet Keizer to Johan Neeskens. They won 3 consecutive European Cup titles in 1971, 1972 and 1973, under 2 different managers, Rinus Michels and Stefan Kovacs. Barcelona, 2008 to 2011. The most recent entry in this 7, one could make a case for the current Real Madrid team, who've won 3 Champions League titles in 4 seasons, and deserve an honourable mention at the very least. The Barcelona team of the late 2000s and early 2010s had a different air about them though, and were a generation-defining team. Under Pep Guardiola, Barca were incredible. Let alone beating them, just getting the ball off them presented an almighty challenge for their opposition. In the 3 years between 2008 and 2011, the likes of Piqué Puyol, Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, Eto'o, Henry, David Villa, and the crown on top of a brilliant side, the greatest player of all time Lionel Messi, combined to win 2 Champions League titles and 3 La Ligas. Santos, 1961 to 1968. This 7 is very European heavy, with a couple of South American sides very unlucky to have missed out, most notably the River Plate team between 1941 and 1947. The one non-European side who do make the top 7 are the Santos side of the 1960s. This great team actually stretched from the late 1950s right into the early to mid 1970s, but they were at their peak between 61 and 68. In those years, Santos won a very strong Brazilian league 6 times. They won the Copa Libertadores twice, and they would have won more if they hadn't skipped the tournament multiple times in the years that followed in order to tour Europe. They beat the European champions Benfica 8-4 over 2 legs to win the Intercontinental Cup in 1962, and retained their title by beating AC Milan the following year. Pelé was of course the star of this Santos team, but they also possessed the likes of Zito, Pepe, Gilmar and Coutinho. AC Milan, 1987 to 1991. Europe's second and Italy's most successful club when it comes to European competitions, AC Milan are giants of the beautiful game. Tactically, technically and physically superb, the club's finest team came at the end of the 1980s and the start of the 1990s under Arrigo Sacchi. Milan had great strength all over the pitch, with the likes of Costa Curta, Baresi and Maldini in defence, right guard Ancelotti and Hullet in midfield, and a world-class centre-forward in Marco van Basten up front. They were a dominant team, winning the 1989 European Cup final 4-0 and retaining their crown a year later. Many of the same players lifted a third European crown in 1994 under Fabio Capello, beating Barcelona 4-0 in the final. Real Madrid, 1955 to 1960. We undernard over this 7 for some time, and top spot was another difficult decision. The competition in Europe undoubtedly wasn't as fierce in the 1950s as it was in some of the years which followed, and that has to be taken into account when assessing Real Madrid's incredible side of that era. That being said, Los Blancos won 5 consecutive European titles. You can only beat what's put in front of you, and Real certainly did that, repeatedly, emphatically, and in style. The signing of Alfredo Di Stefano in 1953 was a landmark moment, and Real began bringing in world-class talent from across the globe. There was Di Stefano and Real from Argentina, Santa Maria from Uruguay, Puskas from Hungary, Raymond Copper from France, and their own Spanish stars like Francisco Gento. With such quality, success is inevitable, but Real's European dominance was staggering, and their 7-3 victory over Frankfurt in the 1960 final was perhaps their crowning moment. So that's it for our top 7. Particularly honourable mentions go to some of the great Celtic, Manchester United, River Plate, Bayern Munich and Benfica teams over the years. Whittling this down to a 7 was near enough impossible, so let us know your top 7s in the comments. Thanks for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to HITC Sevens.